record button. And then I am going to share our PowerPoint presentation. Now, because we've got a smaller group here, if anybody has a question during any point in the presentation, just unmute yourself, just say, hey, Matt, stop right there, just grab my attention, and we'll try to, answer things in the moment as best as we can tonight. So let me just play this from the start. Now, you'll notice right away that we don't have our fancy dancy PTS logo and stuff on this particular PowerPoint, and that is because I have received permission from Purdue to use this PowerPoint for the purposes of us tonight. As Andrew and I were discussing just a few moments ago, the Purdue Online Writing Lab is a fantastic resource for all of your writing needs. But if you're writing an APA paper, it is going to especially help you out. So everything that I have here can be found on the Purdue OWL's website. And after we go through the PowerPoint here, there's a few slides where we're going to go really fast because I want us to take a look at some of these things inside a paper. And I've got a sample of an APA 7th style paper that we'll take a look at together, and hopefully that'll help us connect the dots. So APA stands for the American Psychological Association citation style, and ultimately all styles, whether it's MLA or Turabian or APA, it's to help us in organizing our sources. It helps us to give other authors credit and helps us to utilize their intellectual property properly, and really just helps us to stay on task. So you're gonna find APA style in humanities, in psychology, in nursing, in a lot of the more scientific disciplines. And that's because it deals primarily with quantitative and qualitative writing. So these are writing in scientific research, when you're gathering data, and when you're really trying to measure an outcome. Some of that doesn't work so well in theology because we work in the realm of the metaphysical and the abstract, sometimes, or most of the time. So we capture those there. And as we go through here, one of the differences that you'll see is the, hang on one second, I'm getting somebody in. One of the differences is when you write your paper in APA style, it's not quite as creative a work as Turabian. Now, on one hand, that kind of takes the pressure off and you can be a little more, black and white with things, a little bit more frank, a little more matter of fact. Where that kind of comes to haunt us a little bit is when we're actually doing our research, because in writing an APA paper, when you consult journals and things, all of that's going to be an APA style, and that information can tend to be pretty dry at times. So just keep those things in mind. So today we are going to go over the style. We're going to pay close attention to in-text citations, and we're going to go over the references at the end of the paper. So that's one of the big differences between Turabian and APA. Turabian has the bibliography at the end. APA has a references section. We'll go over that. So let's head over to the next slide. So in APA, you really want to utilize first person pronouns. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Matt, I thought all academic writing was in the third person. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You know, the more that I get acquainted with academic writing, the more that I realize that all of these rules are nuanced anyways. So, you know, that's just something to think about in the back of your mind. I don't really want you to, or I would encourage you not to spend, don't worry yourself too much unless you've got just a ton of time, saying, oh no, did I write this in the first person or the third person? Or what if I, you know, say you a couple of times there? You know, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Utilize first person personal pronouns as much as you possibly can, the we's and the I's and the us's, instead of writing in the third person. I don't know if you've ever, if any of you use Grammarly or not. When I edit a paper for Grammar, I use Grammarly. There's a free version and a paid version. It plugs right into Microsoft Word. It's fantastic. But one of the things that comes up in Grammarly all of the time is it will ding me for writing in the passive voice. Well, that's problematic because most of our theological writing is in the passive voice. Like I can pull Augustine or, you know, St. Thomas Aquinas or John Wesley off the shelf, and Grammarly is going to take them is going to give them the business because they're writing in the passive voice. So where that active voice comes from, again, I think is just an extension of the APA tendency to want to write in the active voice. So here's just a couple of questions there, or a couple of examples here. You know, you might want to write, we asked participants questions instead of the participants have been asked questions by researchers. So I have come to find out that, as you know, most of us, regardless of if we're in the counseling track or in the theology track, we all have spent a fair amount of time reading the Bible, and we tend to write like that as well. And a lot of that is in the passive voice. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You know, you can certainly integrate the passive voice in there, but according to the APA, you know, standards there, you should really utilize the passive voice when it's talking about the recipient, you know, or the object of an, you know, of an action. The example here is the tests were inconclusive, as opposed to we found the tests inconclusive. So if you compare both of those, you really see that in both cases, the style, it's really the most concise way to say or to communicate what you're trying to say. And that's one of those things that APA wants you to do. Wants you to use simple, concise, and straightforward, a straightforward writing style, using as little words as you, or as few words as you possibly can. So I think the next slide has got some, so that talks about that on the next slide. And that goes back to what I was talking about before. You don't have to worry about being, you know, super creative when it comes to writing, your writing in APA. Just how can you communicate what you're writing, communicate the results of what you have found in the most simple, direct, and concise way. You almost want to try to be dry. Like, in my opinion, if you're writing an APA paper and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is, you know, pretty crusty stuff. Well, you know, you're probably in the right place when it comes to APA. So just use simple and plain language, and that'll just get that in your mind going into your writing, and that'll help you out a lot there. There again, I don't want you to spend a whole ton of time you know, worrying about this, but it is one of those conventions you need to know about. So right off the bat, there's a lot more emphasis just put on the writing style within the APA manual than Turabian. So, you know, lots of differences. When you're in your counseling classes, or doing any type of work that requires APA, you're going to write three main types of papers. It's either going to be a qualitative paper, a quantitative paper, or it's going to be a review of some sort. And if the paper that you're writing in APA is not one of those styles, well, you want to go and talk to your professor and see exactly what they want there. So quantitative research is just like it says, it measures empirical data. So, if you are if you're doing a case study on, how many people like chocolate versus vanilla versus strawberry ice cream. Well, you're going to go and talk to those people. You're going to gather your data. The quantitative report is going to compile all of that data and analyze it strictly, really focusing in on the numbers. A way that you can organize your paper is illustrated below. You can have your title page, your abstract. Your introduction is part of your paper. It's not labeled introduction. It's just understood that that's how you'll start off the body of your paper. Then you report on your methods, your results, and then any type of discussion that you need to have after that. So quantitative is utilizing, measuring that empirical data. So the qualitative research is going to take that same set of people and circumstances that are eating chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream, and you're asking why. You're beginning to discover and search into why a person is drawn to strawberry rather than chocolate or vanilla and all that stuff. So that's your qualitative research. It's more concerned with human experiences, things that can't be quantified. So that's your key, like quantity, numbers, like those are your keywords. Quantity equals quantitative. Qualitative is an absence of number, like you're exploring the feeling of the deal. So you might want to organize your qualitative paper thusly: title page, abstract, introduction, method, finding and results, and then discussion. So don't get too tripped up on the way that you organize it there. They just put that in as a just a suggestion, because the fact of the matter is your professor might have how they want your paper to be outlined listed in your syllabus. And we remember what the golden rule of academic writing is, right? And that is the professors make all the rules, and that's okay. It's their classroom. They can do what they want to do. And we say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Then the last type of major paper you're going to write is a literature review, and that's where your professors probably assigned you a book to read, or an article or a series of articles or whatever, and you're summarizing those the contents and expressing what you thought about those. That's pretty simple, straightforward. Here's a way that you could organize that. And those papers are usually, pretty short, in the 5 to 7 page range. Of course, if your essay is not quantitative, qualitative, or a review, consult your instructor. So like Turabian, your entire paper, at least the body of your paper, needs to be double spaced. The margins need to be set at 1 inch all the way around, unless you're in the doctoral program and you are formatting your paper for binding. Then your left margin can be up to 1.5 inches. It says here to use 10 to 12 point standard font. I don't know why anybody would use 10 point font unless you've just got a lot to say. and your professors are going to count off if you go past 15 pages or something like that. I would just stick with 12-point font. Use use a type of font that everybody knows. Either Times New Roman, Calibri, or there's one more that's not coming to my brain right now, but I like Times New Roman the best. And then of course you're printing everything on standard paper, 8.5 by 11. That almost goes without saying, but there is the almost there. So remember all the trouble that we went through putting the page numbers on Turabian? Well, all that is non-existent in APA. So you start off from the very first page, which is the title page, with the regular Arabic numeral 1, and then you just number the pages. It just goes in succession according to the Arabic numerals. So super simple to set up APA. You start with 1, and in theory, there's in Turabian, there's the possibility that you can have a lot of front matter in there. You can have a table of contents. You can have a preface. You can have a foreword. You can have all of those things. But generally in APA, you're looking at title page and abstract, page 1, page 2, and then on page 3, you're into the body of your paper. So I don't know if we have any doctoral students in here that are doing professional style papers, or maybe, you're thinking to yourself, you might like to go on and get your doctorate or your PhD, and you want to practice writing professional style papers. Your professors may or may not be indifferent on that, but a professional style paper in APA has a running heading that goes throughout the paper. And it's simply the title of your paper that's in all caps that runs throughout the head, but the header throughout the document. But I don't think that we'll need to worry about that. And we've mentioned so far that about the title page and the abstract, then the main body and the references. So your APA formatted paper is going to have these 4 main parts. Now there again, your professor may give some specific instruction on what they want, how they want the body to be sectioned off. We'll go over the different level headings a little bit later in the presentation. Sometimes your professor won't even require you to do an abstract. So in that case, your title page is page 1, and then you're right into your body on page 2. I would suggest that if you're unsure about the abstract, just reach out to your professor. If they put in the syllabus that you need to adhere to strict APA standards, then I would assume that they want an abstract in there. But there again, if you ever have a question, just clarify that with your professor. So setting up your title page is super simple too. It's just everything literally exists in the top the top third of the paper. So and everything is double spaced too. So if you start with double space, you're with the paper in double spaced, with everything centered. You're talking, 3 or 4 spaces from the top, then the title of your book, then a couple of more spaces, and then you've got, your name and all the university information below. And this just illustrates what, oh no, this is on the abstract. Notice that the abstract is labeled abstract at the very top. This entire paragraph is double spaced, but it's not indented. The first line is going to be flush with the left margin. Your abstract is basically a very tight summation of your entire paper. And you may, at the very end, want to include some keywords. You don't necessarily have to do that, but they suggest that you could incorporate keywords, because that could help people that are reading your paper locate more information about what you are, talking about in your paper. As we've said, the body of your page is going to be labeled on page 3. At the very top, I mentioned a little bit ago that it's understood that your body begins with an introduction, but you're not going to label that. You're not going to write introduction there. You're going to have a level 1 heading at the top of the first page of your body, and it's just going to be the title of your paper. So, but you have to understand that that's a level 1, that's a level 1 heading. So technically within a 15-page paper, you should probably not have any more than 2 level 1 headings. And since it's APA style, and since most of our papers are going to be in that 15-page range, I would suggest that first heading on page 3, the top of the first page of your body, that's a level 1 heading. And then every other heading is either a level 2 or a level 3 heading. And, if you're confused about that, we'll illustrate that more clearly when I pull up the sample page here at the end. And everything is double spaced, everything, even throughout the references page. So when you finish writing your paper and you've got all your citations in there, which we'll be going over in a moment, you'll begin the references page on a fresh sheet, references at the top, and all of your entries are double spaced, all of them throughout the whole thing. The only thing that's different is the first line of each individual entry is flush with the left margin, and every other line within a single entry is indented. So it's different than Turabian, right? Because in Turabian, a single entry is single spaced, and then there's a double space between individual entries. So and then whatever your references are, just make sure that you put them in alphabetical order according to whoever's last name is first. But no footnotes to worry about. All of your citations are in the text and are done in either a narrative or a parenthetical style, which makes things a little more simple, because you're going to most of us, when we include our citations, it's going to just be the last name of the author, and then it's going to be the title of their work, and then it'll be the page number. Most of the time, it's pretty simple. However, we do know that citations can get a little wonky at times, so we'll go over we'll go over some of that. Make sure that you capitalize all of the major words in the journal titles. Books should be italicized as well. If you're citing a chapter in a book, that needs to be in quotation marks and not italicized. So I'm going to skip here to here's a link to the Purdue OWL, but I'm going to just go ahead and skip to the citation portion here, because everything else we'll get to see that in real time in the sample paper. So I'm even going to skip one more page, because this is how most of your in-text citations are going to look right here. If it's a book with a single author, or even a journal article with a single author, it's going to be the last name of the author, comma, the year that it was published, comma, and then the page number, if there is a page number. If there's no page number, then we cut it off at 2018. So here's where it can get wonky. So you've got a choice. You can either cite your sources in parentheses, right here, or you can cite them in a narrative style. And I encourage you to really use both, because remember, in APA, you're not going to be using a lot of that creative language. So you want to keep your audience in mind when you're writing at all times. What can you do to break up whatever monotony it is? Well, if you've got total control over your citations, incorporate some in a parenthetical style, and then incorporate some in a narrative style. So this is a great example of the difference between parenthetical and narrative citation. So let's just read this together. So research suggests that the Purdue OWL is a good resource for students. So this was this was a thought that was not the author's. They got it from somewhere else, but it wasn't a direct quote. So the author still needed to be given credit. So they illustrated that by putting everything in parentheses, just nice and neat, and that looks great. However, you can also do that as you write, and it can get just a little bit more complicated, but it flows really great when you're reading it. So just compare these sentences together. So here's the narrative citation style. Atkins, 2018, suggests that the Purdue OWL is a good resource for students. Page 12. And you wouldn't even, you could even take the page 12 out of parentheses if you wanted to. And you could say, Atkins on page 12, and then parentheses 2018 suggests that the Purdue OWL is a good resource for students. So you can kind of play around with that if you want to. It's one of the ways that you can weave a little creativity, into your, possibly dry APA paper that you're writing. Not to accuse any of you of being dry writers, but by virtue of the fact that APA wants clear and concise language that's devoid of over descriptive adjectives, theoretically they're all going to be dry. And then your professors are going to know that going in. So whatever you can do to kind of get them to focus in on your paper a little bit or rest their eyes, that's just a good best practice, right? So here are some more examples of how we can utilize parenthetical citation and the narrative citation. I won't read through these. You guys can access this PowerPoint on the Purdue OWL's website, and they'll go into more detail on this stuff. So this will be a good resource for you, and I can also email it to you as well. But just keep that in mind. Two different ways to cite within your sources, and it doesn't matter how many authors there are. There's always going to be these two main ways to cite your sources. One thing that they do want you to be cognizant of is when you are introducing specific quotations. APA really wants you to use good signal verbs. So it's kind of a catch-22 a little bit, because I've been explaining about how APA doesn't want you to use all this descriptive language, but it seems right here they're wanting you to use descriptive language in a certain spot here. Well, that's just the paradox of academic writing, right? Ultimately, I didn't make these rules, and neither did any of us. So, but it is a good convention, and you can here are just a few of those signal verbs that you can use, and you can easily plug those in here. According to Reynolds argued that, Reynolds contended, Reynolds maintained, so on and so forth, and etc. So again, I don't think this is a huge deal, but something that you want to keep in the back of your mind. Remember, as we go through, we're trying to hold on to any amount of creativity that we can, just by virtue of the fact of APA's overall dry style. Now we're going to get into, I'm not going to go through these in a lot of detail, but just note that there are the headache when it comes to APA is in the citation style, because as students, we want to do things right. We want to do things correctly. But it seems like you've got a choice on whether or not you want to do a parenthetical citation style or a narrative citation style. And then within both of those, there are, a multiplicity of ways that these different sources can be cited. So I might offer this best practice. If you've got more complex, multi-author citations, don't cite those in a narrative style. Like, the harder the citation is to figure out, just go ahead and just make that thing succinct, put it in between parentheses, and then go with it. Now, your more simple citations or citations with just one author or whatever, yeah, go ahead and integrate those as a narrative style. So just be cognizant of that. See, here's where we get into the lots of details. So if you've got a work that has two authors, in the narrative citation, you're going to use the word "and" between the authors. However, if you illustrate that in a parenthetical citation, you're going to use an ampersand between the names. So, just one of those things to keep in mind. That's why I like to connect you guys with these resources, because there's no way that you and I can memorize all of this stuff. But what we can memorize is where we can go to, get the answers that we don't file away in our brains. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that at times you will use the ampersand when you're putting your citations into your text. Here's an example of what 3 or more authors looks like. Not going to go into super detail there. There are some books. If you're using like some concordances or lexicons, I'm thinking specifically of Brown, Driver, and Briggs Hebrew lexicon of Hebrew and English lexicon. That would be that's a mouthful to cite anywhere, whether it's in Turabian or APA. So here's another one. If you come across a work that doesn't have an author, which I think will be pretty rare, but it's possible, especially if I would think that well, I'm not going to say that. I've never included a work that doesn't have an author, but just in case you do, you will, instead of the author's name, you'll just start off with the first word that's in the title. If you're citing a group source like the FDA or the CIA or the CDC, it's the proper convention that the first time that you mention that, you write out the entire name, and then in parentheses, you'll go ahead and just put the abbreviation, and then every time after that, you're going to use the abbreviation. So if you'll notice here, there is a difference between the narrative and the parenthetical citation when using one of these larger sources. Again, to me, the parenthetical citation, it's a little more simple, but you've got the FDA in these brackets right here, And I just don't, that just looks really bulky to me. So if I were going to cite, a larger organization like that, I might look to cite that in a narrative style, just because it looks a little cleaner in my opinion. But there again, that's just my opinion. If you've got a couple of works that you're citing in the same citation with the same last name, you'll need to include their first initial and of course a semicolon needs to go between each individual source. A couple of different ways to do that here. So as you can see, the difficulty, APA makes it really easy to set your paper up, but when it comes to actually citing the sources, in some ways, it's more difficult than Turabian. Because in Turabian, you've got to format the footnotes, but after that, it's virtually the same information that's in the bibliography, and there's just a few more nuances in APA here. So the Purdue OWL, here's the website right here, has a more exhaustive list of all of the different citation styles that you can use, and they have all of them illustrated. They'll have them in parenthetical style, in a narrative style. So that will be a great resource for you. Also, apastyle.org, which is the APA's website. They've got some really good free material on there as well. Their website is a lot better than the official Turabian website. And of course, if after you look at these and you're scratching your head, you're like, I don't know whether I need to do a narrative citation style or a parenthetical citation here. You're just confused. We'll just reach out to the Writing Center. I might not, we might not know right off the top of our head, but I guarantee you we could all figure it out together. So that's it. I'm sure that you have some questions. I am going to pull up our sample paper to let you see how all of this stuff works when all the ingredients are together. So before we get into this, does anybody have anything that they need clarification on? Any questions? Everybody good? Clear as mud? All right, rolling on. So let's just go from the top and get our eyes and our minds focused on what we've just learned. Okay, so first thing that we'll notice is the big fat number 1 in the top right-hand corner of the page. I think in APA that the number needs to be in the top right-hand corner of the page. I'm not 100% sure on that, but but just to be on the safe side, just go ahead and number your paper the top right-hand corner. Now we've got you'll start with the document center justified, with the double space checked, and then you're going to space down 3 or 4 times, it looks like here, and then you're going to write your title. All the major words capitalized, just like a normal title. You're going to make sure that's in bold. Then you'll do two double spaces. You will write your name. Then you will write the Pentecostal Theological Seminary. If you know the specific department, you can include that, but Purdue's a large university, so they've got that illustrated. It's probably not necessary for our school. And then the course name, then whoever is teaching the course, and then of course you end with the date that the paper is due. And that's it. Pretty simple. Then space all the way down. Come to page 2, set up your abstract, still center of the page. Tab down once, just make sure that your abstract here is bolded. And then you're going to write your abstract, somewhere around 250 words, just a brief, the highest high level overview of your paper that you possibly can write. If you're going to be creative anywhere in your paper, this is the place where you're going to do that. So I kind of think of the abstract, again, now this is just my opinion talking here. This is where you have an opportunity to pique your reader's interest, and if your paper is published anywhere, well, what I like to do when I'm going through papers, I love to see if there's a summary or an abstract, because if I'm looking for sources, I'll kind of peruse that abstract to see if it's something that I want to check out. So, just keep those things in mind as you write your abstract. And then think about the keywords that you're going to address, that you're going to utilize and engage in your paper. Just write those there. Again, just helping out, helping prepare whoever's reading this to read your work. So, and I think that's very important. We should always be cognizant of that when writing. And then we just continue to tab on down to page 3. And again, at the very top, our first header in the document is the title of your paper. Notice that it is bolded and it is formatted exactly the same way as the title of your paper. All the major words capitalized, and then you're going to double space again. And then notice the first line of your paper is indented. So that's a big thing. Your abstract flush with the left margin. The body of your paper indented from the left margin. And then we're rocking and rolling throughout. So as we see right here, we've got we've got a narrative citation that they've utilized here. Scroll on down. We've got a quote here. Looks like we have just a parenthetical citation here. And this document is available on Purdue OWL as well, and it will be a great practical guide for you as you write your paper. So I'm going to just scroll on down to see if I can see anything interesting. So here we've got a pretty complex citation. We've got 2 authors, and since it's in parentheses, an ampersand separates both authors, and then we've got a semicolon separating the other source that's used, and then there's a third source that's used in this sentence up here as well. So they are illustrated here too. So just in this one parenthetical citation, there are 3 different sources that have been cited. Let's see. Just going to scroll on down to see if there is, okay, so right here, I get this question all the time. What if I run into a citation in a book that the author uses that's a citation of another source? Well, this might be how you cite that here. So we've got Sedlin, who is an author, who is, it appears, is citing something Sedlin 1993 is cited in Pounder 2007. So maybe Pounder 2007 is citing Sedlin 1993 here. That's what it looks like to me. So seeing we've got a we've got a narrative citation style here. So the ways that the citations can be put together in the text are nearly endless. Okay, so here we've got a citation that illustrates multiple authors, and this is a multiple citation. This is a multiple source citation here. So Boring et al. And others, and then same thing here for Galbraith, it looks like. And then notice we've got this SETS, sets, that abbreviation that we see throughout the document. If we scroll up here to the top, we first see this here as meaning student evaluation of teacher. So that's a pretty important one, it seems like to me. And then we've got another one. We've got a Havilian evaluation of teacher, or HET, and then going forward here, we'll see HET. And another example of, man, we've got lots of abbreviations here. This must be a government paper. Okay, so remember what I said about your level 1 and level 2 headings? Again, this is just my opinion, but a 15-page paper should probably only have one level 1 heading, and then all other headings should be subsequent to it. So unlike Turabian formatting, which gives you a little bit of leeway in formatting your headings, APA wants you to be a little bit more precise. So level 2 headings, it gives you the instructions right here: flush with the left margin, bolded, and written in title case. And then third level headings: flush with the left margin, bolded, written in title case, and italicized. So what does that mean by title case? Well, title case is whatever case you use up here. So you're going to be using the same font, but notice literature review, major words, they're capitalized. All right, effective teaching, a contextual construct. Sometimes when we do our subsequent headings, we want to differentiate by using lowercase letters. Well, you're constructing these different level headings the same way you would construct your title as well. So that's what it means, title case. But the third level is italicized. And then there's yet one more, a fourth level heading here, which you're probably not going to be using a fourth level heading. You might get down to number 3, but they've just got it in here to illustrate. But fourth level headings are bolded and written in title case. They're also indented and written in line with the following paragraph. So. All right, let's just scroll on down. To the works cited, or I'm sorry, works cited. Guess I'm writing an MLA paper. To the references. So if you're using figures and tables, there's some information here on how to do that as well. I'm not going to go over that because that's pretty specialized. But here again, pretty straightforward. References at the top, everything is double spaced. All the sources are placed in alphabetical order according to the first word or name that's in the reference. Here again, you're going to want to consult either your APA 7 manual or the Purdue OWL to see how you format these. Even if you use a citation generator, some of those nuances, some of those get it wrong sometimes. So it's always a good practice to, after all of your citations have been generated, just go back and make sure all the periods are where they need to be, that everything is capitalized the way that it needs to. And I think that's it. So just summarizing everything here, APA style is easier to set up from start to finish. There's a wide array of how you can cite your sources. It's all done in the text, but it can either be in a narrative style where you incorporate it into the sentence, or you can condense everything into parentheses. But according to how many authors, what type of source it is, that's going to depend on how that source is, how that source appears in the text. And of course, that's going to, depend on how all that information is going to depend on how you put your references together as well. So that's it in a nutshell. Overall, APA is a little more simple than Turabian. So, and I think that it's less daunting because we don't have to do all the gymnastics with Microsoft Word. We can just set the page numbers, simple title page, and then rock and roll. Any questions, comments, anything at this time? All right. Seems like everybody is good to go. That's all I've got, folks. Pretty simple. We were able to get through everything in an hour tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.